Tulsi. So the Democratic Party, and I've alluded to this once before, but I saw a video Kyle did, and he's late. I got there first, so good on that. Getting there first. I'm looking for a video, Kyle. I'm sorry, I'm running behind because I'm doing this all on my own today. But Tulsi is being excluded from the DNC debates. Now, when you ask why Tulsi is being excluded from the Democratic debates, the question has to do with the criteria that the Democratic Party is using. If you remember, the first time around, the Democratic Party was going with this notion. They had like 3 debates. They had like little to no debates. And having those little to no debates, for the most part, they were doing that to game the system. They know the more debates, the more the public would get an opportunity to see Sanders eat Hillary Clinton alive like he did in each and every one of those debates. And the last thing they wanted to do is Hillary Clinton to get embarrassed again and again and again and again. And it's only so much propaganda that you can put out when people can see the debate for themselves, especially when they can look it up. So, they cut down and they limited the number of debates that were being had. So this time around, Tom Perez goes out, and in what was flagrant cheating the last time around, he goes with this notion that the only cheating that took place were the debates. That was the only cheating that took place. Forget the stuff that was coming up behind the scenes about the DNC gaming the system. Tom Perez comes out and says, no, people had a crisis of confidence in our system. Why? Because you were cheating. Everybody could read the WikiLeaks, Tom. Everybody could read it. Everybody could see behind the scenes what was going on. We're supposed to be impartial. We're supposed to be impartial, but the fix was in. And that's assuming that's only the degree you want to go to. If you want to get into the election stuff itself, meaning the way how the polls and the exit polls will be dramatically different from what took place in the actual vote tally. It looked strange. It looked like you guys were gaming the system. Even shutting down polling locations, you were gaming the system. It went beyond just this nonsense of debates. So the way that the DNC is resolved to deal with this is, all right, since people have an issue with the way we're carrying out our debates, we're going to have 1,000 debates. And there's going to be a criteria for people to get on those debates, to get on the debate stage. The criteria, starting off, you had to be 1% of the polls, and you also had to have 60,000 unique donors. Tulsi hit her unique donors. For the second time around, you needed to have 3% of the polls, or 2%, 2 or 3%, I forget which one off the top of my head. And you need to have 130,000 unique donors. Essentially, it doubled. So from 1% to 2%, and from 60,000 to 120, but I think it was 130,000. Tulsi has met the criteria of 130,000 in regards to donations. She's also met the criteria of 2% in the polls, depending upon which polls you are viewing. That's the catch. The DNC is only using very specific polls and making a determination on who gets on that debate stage. What you're watching here is Tulsi Gabbard eat Kamala Harris alive. Kamala Harris being utterly and entirely defenseless to explain and defend her record. And Tulsi Gabbard looking extraordinarily strong here as she does it. She hit the donor threshold, meaning the number of unique donors. Clearly there's grassroots support. And she hits 2% in multiple polls, not just 1 or 2, multiple polls. The catch is they have to be DNC approved polls. And that's the rub. The DNC is using very specific polls to make the determination on who shows up. They're not even using an average. They're literally plucking and picking the polls. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say this is a scam or this is cheating or this is rigging. I'm not going to go there. That's somewhat hyperbolic. What I will say is, if you know that polls trend a particular way, then to some degree you can have some influence on the process just by choosing the specific polls. Emerson is not a bad poll by any stretch. And by the way, The Economist, again, these are not horrible polls. These polls are actually quite good. These polls are not included into the process. I guess my point is this. People are asking, there needs to be variety on that debate stage. And right now, the way you are using the system or setting the polling, meaning controlling the very few polls that you're using, you're excluding various members from that debate stage who clearly has grassroots support and who clearly has hit your unique donor threshold. John Delaney got like 4 people to vote for him, including himself. His ass got on that debate stage the first time around. Tulsi Gabbard is 130,000 is more than at this point unique donations. She clearly has grassroots support. You need to be on the debate stage for people to know who you are. That's the catch. It's a chicken and an egg. It's like, how would people know you if you're not in a public limelight for people to know you? And the debate stage is the area where you get the opportunity to do that. There are 20 people in this debate, and I understand that you need to thin the herd. So I'm not even against that per se. But I don't like this, the modicum of polls. I suppose their argument would be, look, regardless of what polls we choose, people would have had issues with it. Fair enough. I take that point. People are trying to get Tulsi on the debate stage. That's their objective. They're trying to get Tulsi on the debate stage. She hits the unique donation. She clearly has grassroots support. She clearly has it. A Change.org petition has been released. Include economist Emerson Suffolk polls for the DNC debates. We, the voters, ask that you include polls from the economist Emerson and Suffolk for the September and October DNC debates. Since the end of July debates, only a handful of polls have been released, far fewer than what was previously being released. We ask that these polls be included so Secretary Castro and Gabbard be included in the debates. They have far exceeded the donor threshold and clearly have grassroots support, which is essential for any election. The thing is, it doesn't matter if far few polls have been released. The Democratic Party is only using very specific polls, and I think that's your point. If you're only using very few polls, you're going to exclude people from that third debate when another poll might have came out that showed those people had gained a certain degree of support from their performance in the previous debate. You need to include additional polls so you can get a clear viewing on her support. And just so we're clear, this is real clear politics. If you notice, that Fox News poll that came out gave Warren a 10-point lead. That poll is such an outlier. That poll is a massive outlier. But because of that, it put Warren into the second spot. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's what it is. Polls are polls. Now, that said, Gabbard, if you average it out, gets 1. But look at this. If you look at The Economist, it's 2. If you look at The Economist YouGov, that's 3. I don't see Emerson on here. Let's see. Where's Emerson? The last time I saw Emerson, she was up on Emerson. I guess the point is, their goal is to get her on the debate stage. And their point is, you're choosing the polls that you want to use. And there are polls that show she has that support. And I got to be honest, 1%, 2%, is that really that big of a difference? I suppose if you're trying to, the unique donors, I don't know. I'm signing this petition personally because, again, I want Gabbard on that debate stage. And when I heard that they were using very specific polls, my thought was, well, that doesn't seem fair. I mean, you're essentially choosing the specific polls that you guys are using. Who made that choice on those polls? Was that just a basic DNC choice? And if it was a DNC choice, why did you choose some polls over others, including some that were rather scientific? To be fair, though, it's impossible, I would imagine, to know what those polls are going to show months out. So that's why I'm not going with this notion of rigging, cheating, and everything else. More so that polls have certain biases towards certain candidates. That's all. I want her on the debate stage, though. So I'm signing this petition. The DNC is going to entirely ignore this petition when I'm signing it. In fact, do that shit now. What? The session was expired. Try signing again. Bam. Done. All right. So That's the first point. And because, look, I did this video once before, so I'm not going to go entirely into the video again. I was explaining how they were going by this. I mean, I went into further detail in the polls that the DNC were using, and what they were using to try to make that exclusionary principle for the standpoint of Tulsi. So I'm not going to entirely do that video again because I did that video once. But at the same token, it is a good point that, hey, you guys are using certain polls, but not other polls. Why one versus another, especially when these other ones are beneficial to certain candidates who, let's be honest, you probably should want on a debate stage if you want any level of variety in those debates. And maybe the goal of those debates is not variety. But we'll see. I went on to the debate stage. The more lefties on that stage, the better. And just at a very basic point, I want her pushing Sanders to the left. I am okay with that. I'm okay with that 1,000 times. I am okay with that.